Right lads, today we're talking Petit Le Mans, but first, I fucking love this shit. Petit Le Mans, what an awfully chaotic race. 10 hours flat out and with constant traffic ready to put you in the wall. This is not an easy race, but you're in luck because today we're talking key factors that will determine your success in iRacing's Petit Le Mans. We'll also be analyzing a lap around the track as well as a big surprise at the end that you don't want to miss out on. First of all, I want to get out of the way that this is not a race for everyone. This is 10 hours of constant traffic. Road Atlanta is a 4-kilometer track and you throw 45 cars onto here, it's fucking crazy. My point is that if you're not ready to commit to practice, your ability to judge traffic will be way off. In 10 hours at this track without a clue what you're doing, that won't even get you halfway. Once you have decided that you're ready to commit to practice, which should be right about now, we can get into the interesting stuff. Traffic management is important to get right at Road Atlanta because a wrong move in traffic can cost you seconds. I put together a map that shows where you can overtake and where you need to stay the freak away from traffic, and also I have run out of chai. If your little mind wasn't able to make out that the red zones are no-go and the green zones are yes-go, the first section of corners are the absolute worst for any sort of overtaking. The only places you can realistically lap in the first sector is on the approach to turn 1, on the exit of turn 1, and around the outside of turn 3, and that's only if you're close enough through turn 2. And even then it can get extremely tight. The key in the first sector is learning that critical overtaking spot on the outside of turn 3. There isn't much grip and there's basically no space, but get it right and you have saved seconds over a single lap. But this is something I would really advise you to practice because it is a hard place to overtake. If you though don't manage to get past, don't overtake anywhere between turn 3 and turn 5. There's only one line. Racing line is constantly changing sides from right to left and back to right, which means you have no chance of getting a clean pass there. Turn 6 you can overtake, but I wouldn't leave it way too late. This is because it's a very short and a pretty tight section as well, like most of this track is. And therefore I would actually recommend staying behind the GT3 car in turn 6, and if you get a good enough run on them, you can go for them before turn 7. That also explains the full story about turn 7. Don't go for it there, but if you manage to get a good exit out of turn 6, you can overtake them. A good rule of thumb though for all overtaking maneuvers is that if you only think you can make it, just stay behind, save fuel, get a way better exit. You lose probably the same amount of time, but you've also saved fuel, and on the other side you're also way safer. So good general rule of thumb with that. I would seriously recommend doing some IMSA races leading up to this event. And this is because in IMSA races, first of all, you're under pressure. And second of all, you're learning to lap with the right mindset. The difference between a practice session and an IMSA race is that in an IMSA race, it has consequences. And in a practice session, you say, oh, whatever, and you move on. And getting this coded into your mind, it's a way different thing. And therefore, doing IMSA race is the best practice you can get. Right, lads, onto the track guide. Road Atlanta is a tricky little track. So many bumps and curbs and elevations, which makes it hard, but makes it really exciting to drive. This lap we're looking at is a race lap of mine, and jumping straight into turn 1, the braking point is on this bit of pavement. I normally brake just before the grass starts. You can also see that I'm using this paved bit on the entry to the corner to just be able to carry this little bit more speed. However, I would be very careful with this because you're very close to the limit, and one wheel on that grass will get you whooping around and probably into the wall. The exit of turn 1 is very much a balancing act. You want to take it wide, but don't take it too wide. I aim to be around the middle of the track when I get to the top, and that is because the next corner goes to the left. And aiming for the middle of the track gives you a good balance of carrying enough speed through turn 1 and making it to the curb in turn 2. Next up are the trickiest corners on this circuit. 2 blind curbs in a row, and this means that you need turning points, braking points to make sure you can consistently hit your racing line. I use this curb on the left hand side for all my reference points. I brake a little bit before, I brake on it even, and then I use it as a turning point as well. Just before the end of the curb, I turn in to the right hand side, and that normally gets me online every single lap. But don't underrate these points. These reference points are the ultimate, you know, decision maker between getting a good line and just completely missing your apex. It's definitely going to take some practice to get your perfect braking points and your perfect turning points and how you're going to do it, because it is blind corners. But the importance of having them is like so fucking much, mate. The next section of corners is very simple. Turn 3, you can ride the curb on the inside. It doesn't really matter if you go like wide or deep on the exit of it, because the next corner is very easily flat anyways. Going down the hill and coming onto turn 5. This is a tricky one because you're jumping from one curb to another and over the bumps. The car never really settles through this corner. I brake a bit before this curb on the left hand side, because when you do get on the curb, the car loses grip. It's going to be easier to lock up and you're not going to have as much braking power as you are on the tarmac. One thing I see many people get wrong in this corner is that they carry nowhere near the speed they actually can. You don't know how many drivers I've seen break down to 10 or maybe even 20 kilometers less that I'm taking into this corner. What I do is I make sure I hit all of the curbs, hit the apex curb, use as much track on the exit as possible. I kind of just let the car do its thing over these bumps, you know. I don't really try and fight it too much. Of course, I keep it under control because I want to make sure I don't hit this fucking wall on the outside. You know, that's the easiest death on this track, basically. Turn 6 is also one of those corners that you can carry way more speed through than you actually think. Braking at the first of the white lines, maybe a little late on cold attempts, and then we just kind of want to let it roll into the corner, you know. Carry the speed, make it trail brake, because there's no straight after this corner, so you don't need to focus on getting a great exit. So carrying that bit more speed will give you more time. You can use both the apex curb and the exit curb in this corner. However, I want to warn you, you need to practice this, because this exit curb, you can get onto it, but there's the grass right around the outside of it. And that means that if you put a wheel on the grass, you're gonna have absolutely no braking power. You're gonna continue straight on. Luckily, there's a big grass runoff area, so you're probably not gonna hit the wall. Turn 7 is a tricky corner. It's hard to find traction here, and there's a huge straight afterwards, so you want to make sure that you get a good exit. I make sure that I carry speed through this corner, however, because if I carry a bit more speed, I can get away with getting a little bit later on throttle, which in the end gives me more consistent exits out of this corner, because I don't have to play around with the grip as much. Down to first gear and turning a little bit early in to make sure I hit the apex. The track kind of flattens out, so you're gonna lose grip while you turn in. You can put 2 wheels on the exit curb, however, I don't recommend putting more than that, because the car's just gonna bottom out and you're just gonna lose time all the way down the straight. Next up the straight, just chill, you know, take a sip of your coffee. You know, perfect if you meet traffic down the straight, because you don't have to get it done in the corners. Coming into the chicane, I brake at the first of these white lines, using this entry curb here to be able to carry a little bit more speed through the corner. Down to second gear and cut this curb like you haven't done it before. We're talking, you can put a lot of the car over this curb without getting an off track. And this allows you to carry this speed and get a good exit onto the start finish straight. Always aim for a good exit here, will make the difference over a lap. I usually place my car around 3/4 to the left, like in between the chicane, so I make sure I get that good exit out of the corner. But be careful on the exit, because the car is like in a kind of low traction range, and there's grass on the outside of the corner, which just makes for a perfect place to spin at the very end of your lap. If you do complete this corner though, the last corner is very, very straightforward, just flat out, you know, end the lap or Atlanta. That's pretty simple. I did promise you a surprise at the end of the video, didn't I? Yes, lads, just like the Sebring video, I've thrown together a free setup, and this was actually the setup I used for this lap. You can get it in my Discord server, which you can join through the link in the description. Now you just need the right mentality to jump into practice and get going, lads. And for that, I have this video.